On Business Spotlight this week, we delve into the world of electric cars and just how much the South African market is warming up to this idea. Tarryn Knight, the head of product marketing and PR Audi South Africa, joins me now to shed some light on the launch of their electric vehicle motoring range. Tarryn, thanks very much for joining us. We're in a new age, we're in a new era. As electric vehicles become more and more accessible in South Africa, how do you foresee that adaptive change in the luxury segment in South Africa, becoming something of an exclusive and desirable product for the general motoring consumer?
Well, thank you very much for having me, Gary. This is one of my favorite topics. And I think, like most technology in vehicles, it tends to start in the luxury premium segment and then filter down into other segments. Most innovations happen that way. And I think electric vehicles is no different. We're definitely seeing more advances in the premium market, a lot of those vehicles coming first and then followed very, very quickly by other models. And it's very exciting. My personal feeling is that electric mobility is actually overdue, completely overdue. Everything we own, everything we do is electronically powered, except our cars. And when you think of the absolute advantage of having an electric vehicle, then you start to think, wow, why didn't we do this sooner? So there's definitely an overdue aspect to it.
In terms of the South African environment, obviously, the first question somebody watching this interview would say, but, is it compatible with our power supply issues in South Africa? Yet we're seeing, the EV market growing exponentially despite that. So obviously, there is a desirability aspect to it, but how does it fit into the practical realities of power supply in South Africa?
South Africa is such an interesting case study. I mean, if we look at our history and how we've tended to leapfrog technologies despite, some of the challenges we've faced, and sometimes, in fact, because of the challenges we face. So when you look at a situation like South Africa where we have power supply challenges, you also have a lot of people going, well, I'm going to move into solar. I'm going to take this into my own hands. I'm going to find solutions for myself. So the adaptation of solar power, renewable energy in our country surpasses many other developed countries because we have a need to solve. And so when you start to couple that with electric vehicles and the benefits of being able to just charge your vehicle overnight at home when power demand is actually lower on the grid, you start to realize that actually it makes a lot of sense. And as a country, we have the most to gain from electric mobility.
There's nothing I love more than my annual road trip. So tell me, how does this fit into a cross-country experience? If I were to drive Audi's new electric vehicle, and how does it fit into the power supply issue in South Africa, but also the practicalities, and the experience?
Well, absolutely. At the moment, one definitely needs to plan a little bit more than one would if you were taking an internal combustion engine vehicle. But there are so many more charging stations in the country than you would think. I mean, if I were to say to you, how many public charging stations do you think there are right now? And I were to say to you, there's over 400. And if we look at how many there were 2 years ago, the growth has been exponential. And I do have to say that we have paid a particular interest in that. We've invested over 45 million in the charging infrastructure as Audi South Africa, and we also brought ultra-fast charging to the country for the first time, because we do genuinely appreciate the uniqueness of our country and that love of a road trip. So we're continuing to work and invest in some of the things that are really important in our country for those long road trips. Other things like, first responder training, making sure that people who arrive on the scene of an accident know how to tell the difference between an EV and an internal combustion vehicle. They know what to do. So things like that, we've been quite keen on making sure South Africa has that in place and is ready. And we are taking that equally important to actually bringing product. We know we need to provide that infrastructure in order to enable our customers to make those long road trips. And the technology will advance, the battery technology, the range, the speed of charging, all of those things will come.
Okay, so that's, dealing with the anxiety and the infrastructure issues and stuff. But ultimately, us human beings, we like a great experience. Tell me about, the electric vehicle experience and what this model ranges now bring to the party for consumers?
Well, I think as someone who's worked in the motor industry for over 17 years, and I'm sure you as well, you will appreciate some of the exciting, unique aspects, the immediate power delivery, immediate torque delivery, the silence. I know that that's a very contentious and polarizing, especially amongst our racing and performance car enthusiasts. But once they experience the acceleration, they very quickly realize, well, how much does the sound, if I have to compromise, I definitely go for, the enhanced acceleration. I love the silent aspect. I think that there is, we're so bombarded with sound and noise during the day that to be able to sit in a vehicle that's completely silent is in itself such a luxury. And there are so many of these aspects, never having to go to a fuel station again, getting home and just like you plug your cell phone in, you just plug your car in, wake up the next morning, your battery's fully charged. And it's just it's incredibly convenient, it's clean, there's no smell, there's, no emissions. There are so many things. I could really go on and on.
And in terms of the response in the South African market, are you seeing a positive embracing of this kind of technology? And yeah, maybe all of us, at one point we never thought, we would do this because technology, we were traditionalists, etc. But it's making us all change, isn't it?
I've actually been really surprised at how quickly the South African market has adopted electric vehicles, and it will continue. We're not at that critical mass yet, but what's fascinating is where you start to see that tipping point happening in other countries. It's coming in South Africa. And I think, 2 or 3 years ago, if you were at a braai and someone said they drove an electric vehicle, there'd be some sort of, maybe perhaps teasing and, comments. But now, when people say they drive an electric vehicle, the conversation's changed. The question why is actually out of genuine interest, and the conversations that ensue are ones of real interest in terms of increasing adoption. So I really think South Africa has opened up to electric vehicles, and when you start to talk about future possibilities like bi-directional charging, being able to actually use your vehicle, as part of moving electricity around the grid as a mobile battery, that really has exciting possibilities for our country.
Well, you have us all excited and looking forward to our next experience in driving an EV, especially from Audi. Tarryn, thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for the time, Gary.
That was Tarryn Knight, Head of Product, Marketing and PR, Audi South Africa, talking to us about revolutionizing the luxury vehicle market through the launch of its electric vehicle range.